Good morning, friends. Today is Friday, August 15th. I am in the laundry room, which means that I am going to take a walk out to the barn. However, this video I'm doing more in chronological order, and I started filming yesterday. I wanted to talk about how many hours do I knit in a day or a week, and of course it depends on the day because I work 40 hours a week, Monday through Thursday, from 6 a.m. until 4:30 p.m. That's the main topic. I have a few other items that I've shared from this morning that will also go into this vlog. And of course, we'll have a walk out to the barn and then some more knitting time and maybe a little bit of office time. Welcome to my podcast. My name is Corrinala. I come to you from the Pacific Northwest, where I live with my partner, our 2 kitties, and 2 adopted Mustangs. Information about the Wildhorse adoption program will be in the episode description box. This podcast covers knitting projects, my horsemanship journey, and my other passions like vegetable gardening and bicycling. If you're new here, I hope you find the content interesting. If you're a returning viewer, it's always great to have old friends. The format of this channel typically includes musings on an early walk to the barn to feed the horses, then knitting content, some catch up on the horsemanship journey, and finally more musings or maybe a little bicycling footage if I was lucky enough to get out. Enjoy, and I hope to see you soon. Hi friends. I thought that I would attempt to talk about how much I knit in any given day. As you can see, I'm at my desk. I am working today. I work 40 hours a week. I have already knitted this morning. It is 10 a.m. Pacific time, and I have already knit this morning. Every morning I get up when the alarm rings really early because Randy goes to work very early. And I make myself a cup of tea and lounge in my pajamas and knit for about an hour and drink my cup of tea. And then I get ready for work and go to work and feed the horses. Sometimes I get a chance to knit during the day while I'm working. I did a little bit yesterday. I had a meeting. And today I have possibly 2 meetings that I can knit. I'm not really sure yet whether I'm going to be able to knit during the second one, but a lot of times I'll knit socks. And right now I just finished the heel flap of this sock, and this is the Buttercup sock. I was able to finish the heel flap. Let's see if we can get that closer. The camera is really far away of the second socks, and I need to do the heel turn. So I'm going to try to do that during my 10:30 meeting. We'll see. It depends on how many people. I don't have to participate much. It just depends on how many people are in the meeting and whether or not anyone notices that my camera's off. Other than that, I knit in the evening, and it can vary depending on, I guess, when we're done with dinner, because we typically, after dinner, we sit down and watch TV for about an hour. So if I'm thinking about it, I think that I get to knit a minimum of 2 hours a day during the weekday, and then maybe another 30 minutes or maybe another hour. I get quite a bit done during that time. I usually work on one project in the morning. If I have meeting time, I'll work on a sock. If I have, and during TV watching in the evening, I'll knit on something else. And I'll show you those projects. You've probably already seen those projects if I'm going to edit this vlog in the way that I typically do. We'll see. I do want you to notice I am wearing the Bright Axis tee. I finished it last week, and instead of showing it during my regular podcast, I was wearing the other sweater that I had finished. So it's quite a bit cooler today. I've been wearing more like tank tops this last week because the weather was super warm. Today it's cool enough to wear just a nice tee and some long pants. So I am going to leave it at that, see what my meeting's like, and see if I can knit. Good morning, friends. It is Friday morning, August 15th. I thought I would share some morning knitting with you since that is my theme at the moment. I'm working on my Ghost Horses colorwork sweater. This is a pattern by Caitlin Hunter. Top down, I'm using, hopefully you can see this, I'm not sure about the light, but I'm using Spin Cycle for the main color, which is I think it's a sport weight. Let me see. Yes, it is a sport weight. And then for the contrast color, I talked about this last week, I'm using a Brooklyn Tweed, and it's a fingering weight. I'm not sure if you can hear Harley meowing. Hey, buddy. He's had the zoomies this morning, so he could still be playing a little bit. What I've done with this sweater, I talked about it, I think last week. I just had the short, I was working on the ribbing and the short rows to extend the back. And I decided to increase the needle size for the color work because I didn't want the bunching. The pattern calls for a smaller needle for the ribbing and then a larger needle for the stockinette and color work. But it's the same size for the color work as the stockinette. And that can cause puckering just because my gauge tends to be, I'm sure it's the nature of color work. The yarn is thicker, the fabric's different, so it is going to cause something a little bit different. So I opted to go up a needle size for that. It's on the theme of when I knit. This is the first hour of the day that I knit. It's, I don't know, it's probably 5 a.m. It's very dark out. It's raining out, which we have desperately needed. We had really hot weather earlier in the week, which is why I didn't film any kind of extra outside footage. And I thought I would just, plus I've been really busy at work. So I thought I would just talk about, when I knit, how do I get so much knitting done as a person with a full-time job, a garden, horses, and so on. And part of it is I've had to prioritize resting since I injured both shoulders this year in significant ways. And for quite a long time now, I have gotten up when Randy gets up during the week. The alarm goes off at 4 a.m. I admit I don't always roll out of bed at 4 a.m. I take my time and make myself a cup of tea, and then I knit, and I typically watch YouTube or something like that on my phone in the morning. And I do that 7 days a week. We do that on Saturdays. We get to sleep in a little bit more on Saturdays, but since the cats are aware that breakfast time is at a little after 4 a.m., they let Randy know, since Randy is the cat feeder, that it's breakfast time. So, and at some point your body clock just tells you you need to get up. And so, I mean, sometimes if I sleep in till 5:30, I'm really happy. But a lot of times, it can be between 4:30 and 5 even then. And Saturdays and Sundays, typically there's a lot more lounging. Hopefully neither of us needs to rush out the door for anything, so I get a little more knitting done on the weekend. But I get to usually spend a good hour knitting before work, before I need to get ready for work. And that's I can usually, I want to say on weekends it might be an hour and a half, but for me it's hard to sit and do any one thing for much more than an hour and a half. So I certainly have work meetings that go on for more time than that, but I usually turn off my camera and stand up. So that's how I start my morning. And then the next thing that you will see in this video is me walking out to the barn. So I think I'm going to do this video in chronological order, and it'll probably be out a little bit later because I do want to capture the my camera turned off. It had stopped doing that for a while. I'm not sure why it did it now, but anyway, it's a rainy day, which is so awesome. I am not sure my trainer's going to come over. Neither one of us want to stand out in the rain and work with horses, and the horses probably don't want to do that either. So I may get to do lots of knitting today, and I will share that with you, and I'll share with you the progress that I'm making on my projects. So on that note, I am going to move my progress keeper. So here, let me just show you a little bit more of this knitting before I close this segment. So one thing about color work I learned recently is that you have the right side facing you and you have the wrong side facing out, and that helps stretch your floats along so you don't scrunch up your floats. I haven't tried this with a smaller garment, say like a pair of mittens or socks, but I think for sweaters it's gonna work. This is where the progress keeper was last time, so just I think I was just working on the ribbing. And so you can see this pretty spin cycle yarn. It's somewhat variegated, and it's got this blue and the purple, and it goes into this deep purple. You can see in this, hopefully you can see in this stockinette. And then the color work. So I'm on row 27, and I have at least 40 more rows to do of the color work yoke. And then there's this whole sweater is color work. Let me show you a picture of it. So you can see the yoke is where the ghost horses are, and then the rest of the body and the sleeves. And I'm planning to knit a long sleeve version because I want it to be warm and cozy. And I also want to share the bag. So this is the float tote. It's a pattern by Knitty Natty, and I knit this or crocheted this year, and inside is a tray. I don't know if I can show this adequately without dumping things out, and part of it's just because it's hard to hold up my, so I don't know if you can see in there, maybe I could fold this, but there's crocheted yarn cups that are holding the balls of yarn in a very tidy way. So you can show that in there, and they are attached to a tray on there. And so I've got my my yarn labels. I'm going to see if I had a colorway for the, I think these are all spin cycle for the Brooklyn tweed yarn. I'm not sure what that is. So hoping, one of my goals is to update my project pages today. So hopefully I can do that. I'm using Chogu red lace needles. So currently I'm using a size 5, which is 3.75 millimeter. The just regular stockinette piece is in a US size 4, 3.5 millimeters, and the ribbing is a US size 2, 2.75 millimeters. So that is what is going on with this project, and I'll see you in the next segment. Hey friends, I thought I would share some of the Friday morning breakfast routine. Here is some, let me see if I can do this. This might be better. So here is some sourdough that I just put together. I've added a teaspoon of yeast because I want to bake it today, and this will be all nice and fluffy in about 4 hours. If I just did sourdough, I wouldn't be able to bake it until tomorrow. So I'm going to let that rest. Here I am transferring my leftover sourdough starter into a clean jar. So cleaning out this jar, transferring it here, and I'll add more flour and water. Why do I save carrot tops? Well, we make carrot top pesto out of it sometimes. This obviously isn't enough, but Herbert also likes these, so kind of saving them for him. These carrots were harvested from my garden, and these 3 tomatoes were harvested from the garden. On the stove is some rice cooking. I'm steaming some rice because I am going to make myself a little stir fry for breakfast. So I'm going to stir fry this kind of hodgepodge of vegetables. This is the one remaining carrot from the garden, some purple cabbage that's been in the refrigerator for a long time, and red onion. Stir fry that, add the rice, crack 2 eggs, which a friend of mine has chickens, and she gave me, I think, 2 dozen eggs recently for some trip errands I did for her. And then I'll slice up this nectarine. And there's my tea kettle boiling, and you can see the little compost pot there too that will go out in the compost pile later today. So that is Friday morning, kind of post knitting, not working today. I'm going to make my tea. And then I put a lid on until the eggs are set, and enjoy breakfast. Well, let's walk out to the barn, shall we? It's fairly warm outside, and it's pouring down rain. It's been raining for, I don't know, it's some point last night, maybe before midnight. So I don't want to put on a rain jacket, but I don't really want to get wet either. For the first time in quite a while, months, I think, I am putting on rubber boots because I think there's been enough rain to have some puddles and get my normal, like, yucky barn tennis shoes pretty wet. If there's one thing that I really don't like, it's wet feet. I am really glad to see this rain though, even though we are getting some puddles. Hopefully I haven't been on slug patrol yet this morning. Hopefully the slugs aren't taking advantage. I've tried to encourage them So let's have a garden update while we're at it. Harvested a few beans. Stuck those in a pickle juice jar. I've tried to encourage the slugs to stay away from my garden by mostly picking them out and flinging them into the lawn. I'm going to have to empty that. But that is a lot of water. That was just from overnight. That one too. And I don't bother the slugs if they're anywhere else away from the garden. But everybody looks like they're doing fine, so not that you can train slugs, but hopefully there's some sort of recognition that there are safer places than in the garden. I'm showing the driveway because the rain has cooled already. It's not raining hard, which is good. It was certainly raining harder earlier, but it's been so steady that, and the ground is really hard. It's not really absorbing. It doesn't seem like. It seems like it's just mostly running off. We've got a lot of blueberries this year. It's just been magnificent. So I've been making a lot of smoothies and eating blueberries on my cereal. There has not been enough rain to fill up the creek, and even though we're supposed to get like a couple days of rain, I think it's going to take a while for the creek to start flowing. I doubt there's even a puddle. No, there's not even a puddle down where the pond normally is. I suspect I'm not going to have a horsemanship lesson with my trainer today. We talked about it yesterday. Normally it is at 12:15 on Fridays, but we thought we might have a little weather window at 9:45. My weather app doesn't say that there's any break in the rain, so I'm not convinced, but we'll see. Just want to point out that beautiful maple tree changing colors. And I see O taking shelter under a fir tree over there. Both horses are wet. You can see Bragi over there standing out there getting wet. So feeding time will be interesting. Bragi does not like being in his stall when it's raining. So a lot of times he'll eat his grade and then he will stand outside in the rain until I let him out. But hopefully he'll get used to it. I say that with a certain amount of doubt because he's lived in the Pacific Northwest for over 5 years now. So it's dark in here. There's the hay. I'm gonna get to feed it. Hey friends. Just thought I'd bring you with me to the office I was going to update my Ravelry project pages, and you might notice the view is a little bit different. Last time I recorded, I noticed that there was a very bright light in that direction, and that's one of my grow lights that's on a tomato and a couple lemon trees. So trying to change this. Also, I moved the table where my work desk is on in that direction. So the cord would be closer to the plug and the plug. That's funny, isn't it? The outlet is what I mean. And also I wanted some extra space to roll out my yoga mat over here. So that is what that's all about. After I was done feeding, I texted my trainer and said, let's skip today. The round pen has a lot of water in it, and Bragi's has a raw spot under his belly that I just noticed yesterday, and I went to treat it by putting some salve on it this morning, and he actually kicked out. He didn't kick at me, but he was definitely telling me that really is uncomfortable. So I messaged my trainer and said, let's skip today. Bragi's really uncomfortable and the round pen is full of water. And she said, okay. And then I thought, well, we can work with Odin. I mean, there's some high spots, and typically what we do with Odin is just work with him in kind of lateral motions. So I was thinking that we could do that if it's not pouring down rain. And the rain has lifted a little bit, so fingers crossed. She told me to text her at 9, which is in 33 minutes. So I set a timer for myself. So the other things that I want to talk about that I'm not going to show knitting today are, I wanted to talk about this bag of scraps. So this is from my scrappy blanket. It's the 100 Acre Wood blanket patterned by Ellie Jones. It's for her, the patrons of the Bakery Bear. I'm trying to talk over the opening the bag. And I can knit, these scraps. Some of these, there's quite a lot of variation in the amount left. So some of them are probably going to go into like a magic knot ball, but there's quite a bit of yarn here. And I was thinking, it might be kind of fun to knit a Musselburgh hat. I still don't have that pattern. I have one that's similar to it, but one side is this yellow and this side is the black and white. And this could actually, there might be enough yarn here to make it so that it's a cuff. Is that what you call it? When you roll it up and it provides extra layers for your ears. So I was kind of thinking about that. Not that I need any more projects right now. I already talked about the Ghost Knits pattern I'm working on. What I forgot to show you is that I'm using these special stitch stoppers given to me by Carrie from My Wool Mitten. I love them. I am also using a beginning of round marker that is from an earring that I really have never worn. They're just a little too big for me, but I think they make great stitch stoppers. And I just really don't wear earrings anymore. What else do I have down here? I talked about my sock yesterday. I just did the heel turn yesterday during the meeting. I need to pick up the gussets. And then I wanted to talk about the yarn colorway for the Brooklyn tweed. And it looks like it's called Baseline. So, which, makes sense. This is a very neutral color. It's a light gray, and that's what it's called. What else? I did make some progress on my blanket last Sunday during Scrappy Sunday. This is in a bag made by my mom. It's a very simple drawstring bag, and inside it I have another drawstring bag, which the actual project is in. In the big drawstring bag, I have all kinds of scraps that are going to go into the blanket, and here's just a sample. So you can see this top one, this more maroon colored one. There's quite a bit of yarn in that. I think I've used that in different pairs of socks. So it's a little bit of a mess in here, so I'd like to keep it away from the project. And right now, the color that I'm adding is from a recent finished object. I'm holding these two colors together, or these two balls together. It's lace weight. It's that pink, that lovely bright pink, hand-dyed by Ray Whiting of Nativity, sorry. And I've just started on that square. So there's a lot of ends that are kind of all over the place. But I knit this project into the mini mock neck tank by Jessie Maid Design. So I've just started that. I'm actually showing you the correct side, so that's good. I'm using Flexi Flips in 2.75. So, and my progress keeper, this left arm doesn't like to lift very far. So this is how much I have finished since the last time I showed you this blanket. So I'm aiming for 25 squares, and I count this every time I work on it, and So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 19. So I'm on the 20th square. Maybe I can remember that the pink one is the 20th square, and then I have 5 more to go after that. I'm going to move the progress keeper to the wrong side, I think. Hopefully that won't get confusing. It shouldn't be, because the wrong side is where I join the squares together, and there's a ridge there where you pick up stitches. So that is this project. It is really warm outside, even though it's raining. I have a window open in here, but it's just because it's raining. It's like 60 degrees and raining, and it's just super muggy. I know some of you from the Midwest and other places are like, that's not muggy. And I would have to agree with you. It's just not what I am used to. I plan to work on the So Faded later today, and I will talk about that at that time. The other thing I want to share with you is that I got my Advent from Legacy Fiber Arts, and I have just taken the label off the box, and they come wrapped. These are kind of their micro skeins, I think, so they might be 50-gram skeins, and the idea is to open one once a week, which works for me because that's typically the way that I podcast. And I like that they're numbered and they're wrapped in this very holiday paper. So I will bring that. Feels like there's two, maybe there's a micro skein. That doesn't make sense. What do they call those? It's like the 50-gram, and then there's a mini that goes along with it, because I can feel that. And then it all... I don't know if you can see the deer right there out the window. There, baby. Do you see that? There it is. Hey, cuties. Hey, friends. I didn't realize my camera was running as I was getting settled. I'm in a little bit different place. Harley was sitting in my normal spot on the sofa. Speaking of Harley, I guess he's changed his mind about where he wants to be. I was going to knit on my So Faded while I'm waiting for the oven to heat up, because I'm going to bake the bread that you saw a photo of the dough. I'm honestly not sure that I am going to get very much knitting done, but that's okay, right? Yeah, that's okay. Snuggle time is really important, and both cats, interestingly, are kind of wanting to snuggle a bit. So maybe I'll just sit here. I guess what I was trying to the question I was trying to answer is, how much knitting do I do in any given day? And really the answer is probably 2 hours. I get 1 hour in the morning, and about an hour, maybe a little bit more in the evening. The rest of my time is spent working, taking care of the horses, hopefully doing something with the horses, and then just general life stuff. Gardening too. On Fridays can be surprisingly hectic, even though it's often my day off. Sometimes I run errands. I did go to the library today. Sometimes I get some gardening done, and I did start some sunflower seeds. They have, I think, 100 days from plant to maturity, and this is actually a great time of year to plant because the soil's warm and things sprout very quickly and grow very quickly. So that means I should have sunflowers before our first freeze. So I think sometime in October. It may be end of October. And I often have a lesson with one of the horses. And today, my trainer and I decided to skip. We went back and forth. a bit about it and decided that given Bragi is really uncomfortable with an ouchy spot on his tummy, the round pen has puddles in it, and it's just been raining today, which is actually great, because yesterday afternoon, toward the end of the day, when I was outside feeding horses, the air was very smoky, and I'm not sure which fires that it's coming from. There's a big fire on the Olympic Peninsula, which is quite far south and west of here, but smoke goes aloft, and then those upper air currents. I just got a text, but from no one important. Although it is going to bing again if I don't turn it off. So how about if I do that? I'll just turn it off so we won't be disturbed. So this rain is really going to help. I think the fire is close to 10,000 acres. That's the one that is the nearest that I'm aware of. I'm not sure what Bragi, this little kitty, Harley was looking at, what his attention was with. It's quite windy outside. Maybe I'll show that to you in a moment. Anyway, my trainer and I decided that we would do an 1.5-hour lesson on Tuesday morning, because I have some free time, and we'll do 45 minutes with Odin and 45 minutes with Bragi, possibly a little less with Odin, because sometimes he gets things pretty quickly, and then we can focus our attention on Bragi. So that's what is new and what I have been up to. I haven't really answered the question about knitting on the weekend. I think it's fair to say I get more knitting done on the weekend. I might get 3 hours, but that is really my maximum for any given day. Personally, I need to be doing other things than sitting and knitting, and that's, thankfully I have a lot of hobbies, so I can do that. All right, kitty. One of my hobbies is petting the kitty cat. I don't know how I'm going to turn off the camera with this kitty. Yes, because the camera is way over there, and then this kitty is sitting in my lap. Just snuggle, snuggle, snuggle. Yeah. On that note, I am going to leave you here and then maybe take a picture of the bread when it's done. And we'll see you next week. Thanks for watching. Take care, everyone. Okay. Hold on, Harley. Hey, friends. So I thought that little bit with Harley in my lap was going to be my last clip for this episode, but what I forgot to tell you about the So Faded, Harley has moved on. He's found another place that he would prefer to sleep. And actually, I got up because I needed to put the bread in the oven, so maybe it wasn't by his choice. But what I forgot to tell you about the So Faded is that last week I was talking about I wasn't loving the fabric with using the recommended needle size. So I actually ripped it all out and started over and cast on again with a size 4 needle. So I don't remember. I did a gauge swatch. That's right. I did a gauge swatch because I did it in the pink yarn, the very bright pink yarn that I'm going to fade this wonderful Kentucky Derby from Woolen Women. Here it is. Here's my gauge swatch. So here's the pink. And this is the gauge swatch with the size 4 needle. And I'm not sure what I did with the yarn, but these are the 3 colors.
I was thinking I remembered this one, but I don't. I was thinking it was like Nightshade or something like that, but I don't want to get it wrong. Oh my gosh. So here are the labels. And I just updated project pages, but I didn't put yarn. So Love Drunk is one of them. Oh, it was Nightshade. So Love Drunk is the very bright pink. So it's an 80-20. Both of these are. They're the same brand. Emma's Yarn, which I guess I need to add that to my project page. And then Kentucky Derby is, it's also an 80-20. So that's great. What I'm concerned about, though, is that this, when I blocked this, it actually bled quite a bit. So I'm going to have to find some sort of color stopper when I block this, block the finished object, because I don't want the pink to just bleed all, or the purple. I imagine the purple's the same since it's the same dyer. So I just wanted to add that in, just let you know that I did decide to start over on this. So I've got quite a bit done. And I'm joined in the round, still doing the increases, and I think when I do the rib collar, I think it'll fit where I want it to fit. So I talked a lot last week about making sweaters fit and how I usually start out with a really small size and then expand out so that it fits over my bust and my shoulders. One thing I haven't quite worked out yet is sleeve size. Excuse me. Sleeve size. So I mentioned that what's it called? The one I just finished, the color work one I just finished, backlit tee. That the sleeves are a little snug. And I've also noticed that the neck's a little big. So I might have to dig out that yarn again and at least do something with the neck. Maybe add some more ribbing or something like that. So I'll think about that, what I'm actually going to do. I have done that with several sweaters actually, where sometimes I've even just crocheted an edge on a neckline in maybe for a little pop of color. I don't think I'm going to do that with that sweater though. I'll probably just go back and find the needles for the ribbing and do some more ribbing. The bread is in the oven, so I'm going to finish watching the Bakery Bears video show. I'm about halfway through, so I'll get to knit for another hour today. All right, take care, everyone.